Statues are coming down around America, and statues are also going up. In looking at who's down and who's up, you can get a little bit of an idea of what is being publicly held up, celebrated, heroized, if I can coin a word. So here, the New York Times reports that the Teddy Roosevelt statue in front of the American Museum of Natural History is finally being taken down. It's not being destroyed, it's being sort of transferred to some private institution, but it's going to lose its prominent place in front of the Museum of Natural History. Even though Teddy Roosevelt has a long connection with the naturalist movement, he was both a historian and an environmentalist in his own time. A major figure, obviously, a prominent progressive and a Republican, a very interesting kind of combination. He went after the cartels. He had a brand of progressivism that we as conservatives can learn from today. At the same time, he was, of course, a two-time elected president and a Renaissance man in every respect. There's a great book by Edmund Morris, a guy who wrote an unfortunate Reagan biography, but wrote a very good biography of Teddy Roosevelt called The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt, which talks about this sort of adventurous, erudite. This is a guy who would have like Japanese sumo wrestlers in the Oval Office and wrestle them to the ground. And another time he'd have scholars of ancient history and he would discuss with them all kinds of stuff. So this is really an amazing man. And why is the statue being taken down? Turns out that the statue itself has Roosevelt on a steed, on a horse. And alongside him, you've got a black guy, an African man, and then you've got a Native American. Now, they're accompanying him. He is not demeaning them in any way, but apparently his elevated stature on the horse has convinced people at the museum and other leftists that this is a demeaning statue. Notice there's nothing demeaning in the statue itself. Notice that they're not saying that Roosevelt despised Africans or despised Native Americans. The quotes here are so telling. They say that, this is Sam Biederman of the New York Parks Department. He goes, although the statue was, quote, not erected with malice of intent, he says its composition, quote, supports a thematic framework of colonization and racism. Now, I would submit that these themes are being imposed on the statue. They're not actually in the monument itself. And while statues of Roosevelt and then Robert E. Lee and others are coming down, whose statues are going up? Well, George Floyd. So this really gives you the idea of the difference between a Republican and a Democrat. Republicans admire people who did things, people like Frederick Douglass, the runaway slave who became a great abolitionist leader, a U.S. diplomat to Haiti, and people like Teddy Roosevelt who accomplished a great deal. But what has George Floyd accomplished? Let's think about it. Home invader? I mean, I don't think that's on his resume, but it probably should be. Regular drug addict whose body was riddled with fentanyl. Forged check passer. That's really why the cops were called in the first place. So here's a guy who's no role model, no hero. No one should aspire to be like George Floyd. Probably the only thing that happened to George Floyd was not due to him. It was due to someone else. So George Floyd was a victim. He was unjustly treated. But in what respect does that make him someone to build a monument to? This is the difference between Republicans and Democrats. For Democrats, your achievement is victim status. You achieve something basically by getting someone to put a knee on your neck. And you notice that the Democratic enthusiasm about minorities, oh, this minority was victimized, oh, that minority was victimized even more, oh, this minority was the triple victim of victimization, they're people of color, and they're women, and they're this, and they're that, and one or two of them are one-legged, and so, in other words, it literally is a kind of totem pole in which the top position of the totem pole is achieved by being at the bottom of the ladder, by being the most victimized person of all. Now, you'd have to agree that there's a perverted psychology here, a psychology that is very demeaning for any kind of civilization, because civilizations advance and succeed by celebrating excellence. We're not celebrating excellence, at least when I say we, I mean we as a society. The left is not celebrating excellence. The people who control the rudders of our culture are not celebrating excellence. In fact, they're celebrating, as in the case of George Floyd, its very opposite.